everyone in his group. We're going to go to a poll 2. Let's have a look. I think I've got the hang of this presenting thing now. I think I'm working my way around here. Sod's law, something's going to happen, isn't it? So poll 2, in your experience, what is the biggest challenge for leaders who want to improve their workplace culture? Okay, so what is the biggest challenge for leaders who want to improve their workplace culture? Is the challenge time or work demands, remote working, the current one, poor communications, just legged it into the lead, poor communication, resistance to change, competing priorities, lack of urgency or other? That's really good, where over half the people voted. What do you think the biggest challenge is? 16 out of 25. Time and work demands is starting to come back. Nearly there, 84% of people. Okay, what do we think? And we will end the polling there. So here are the results. 19% say time or work demands. No one said remote working, which is interesting. So that's not a biggest challenge. So it runs deeper than that then. Poor communication, 33%, some good stats here. Resistance to change, that's a nice one. A lot of resistance. Maybe people different, like we had in the breakout rooms, people have different definitions of what well-being is or what culture is anyway. So how do they know what to change? Competing priorities, a lack of urgency at 10% as well. So poor communication came out top, and then time and work demands. Thank you, everyone. That's an interesting stat. All right. So let's come out of the poll. So those are the challenges. And I'm really, really proud to introduce everyone now to Ollie Sharp. Now, Ollie is VP Sales EMEA at SalesLoft, which is a massive, great sales enablement firm. But the reason, I mean, Ollie's a good friend of mine as well. And Ollie's really coming to the forefront. I think throughout the pandemic, there's a time where people can build their legacy as a leader. And I must say that, that Ollie is shining with the way he builds a culture for his teams and speaks about mental health and well-being. So yeah, very proud to introduce Ollie. Ollie was at LinkedIn as well, extremely experienced business leader, wealth of knowledge within the B2B marketplace, and a passion for working in very fast-paced, hyper-growth startup environments. So it's going to be really interesting to learn, Ollie, what your views are of the challenges or an employer's view on how to create a culture that cares.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you for the invite. So yeah, my name's Ollie Sharp, VP Revenue at SalesLoft. I spent 10 years in recruitment, and what Sadie was talking about, well, about why people leave jobs is often the culture. And I saw it so many times of people leaving companies because of the culture. And spent 10 years there, and then after 10 years, I got headhunted by LinkedIn to go and join them. And when I interviewed, they talked a lot about culture and their core values and stuff. And I thought it was just another company, American company, with it on the wall that it meant absolutely nothing. And luckily, I was massively surprised because it was on the emotional side rather than cognitive side. And that made a massive difference. And one thing that I saw was the authenticity from the leadership. Jeff Weiner, the CEO, often talks about compassionate leadership. And he defined the difference between empathy and compassion really well, about compassion being something where you actually make an action to help that person rather than just feel their feelings. And that helped me understand more. When I left LinkedIn, I wanted to join a company that actually cared, a company that were proud of their culture, where I could build a culture or or they're proud of the culture, and or I could build it, and I got both. They're proud of the culture in the US, but I was building it over here. So I lead EMEA. We're currently about 50 employees, and I'm lucky enough to actually build that whole culture over here. As long as I don't disagree with the core values of the company and keep aligned with those, it's mine to build. And things that mean a lot to me are things like, and it ties in massively with what Sadie was saying around mindful leadership, because mindful leadership is about being present, not judging. And a great word that they use in there, which is equanimity, which is about always being that calming influence when things go bad, when things go great, just be that calming influence. And how that impacts the culture and the people around you, I think is massive. And at LinkedIn, they did a lot of DIBS, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And the way that they talked about it was diversity is being invited to a party, inclusion is being asked to dance, and belonging is dancing like nobody's watching. And I think that's a great way of thinking about the inclusive and belonging, because it actually helps people. We talk at our place about bringing your whole self to work, feeling you can be yourself at work. And that's very important. And what I wanted to do is just share one specific model with you that helps me, that I use a hell of a lot with my team. And I really believe that no matter what packages you've got for people, what you've got written on a wall, what you've got written down, it all comes down to the leadership and the people within the organization buying into it and being authentic, rather than doing it for some reason just to tick a box. And I'm not going to teach you to say, okay, because there's a slide in. I mean, you all know why people suffer, and they take on too much pressure, the performance dips. This is where they go through fatigue, exhaustion, and ill health. And what's important is that people look after themselves. So this was adopted from Yerkes Dodgson high performance curve, who were two psychologists that studied the relationship between performance and pressure. And once you get into the red, that you're past where there's too much pressure, your immune system gets impacted because the chemicals in your body released when you're stressed don't keep us healthy for long term. So that's when you get colds and flus. The release of stress hormones can cause change in your blood vessels. So there's all of these different things. Your liver gives a boost of glucose, but this isn't healthy long term. This can affect your weight. Stress also affects dopamine levels. So there's all of these reasons why the impact of having too much stress actually impacts us. One thing I will never ever forget is my wife, is what my manager said to me 6 years ago when I was still at LinkedIn, when my wife got diagnosed with cancer. And what my boss said at the time, he said, your wife is your priority, so take care of her. Once you've taken care of her, your kids are your next priority. And then once they're okay, you are your next priority. Make time for yourself, go for a run, whatever you need to do. And if you get any time left, come and do some work. That stuck with me, and it helps me manage my team. I have that mentality with my team. No matter how big or small the stress is that they're having, when we're stressed, that's the end of the world for us. It's a whole world that we think about that stress. So we need to make sure that just because somebody has something that we may think is small, we've got to treat that as a priority and help them understand how to get through it. So I'm often say to them, take the rest of the day off, go sort yourself out, come back to work, whatever it is. But I want to talk about something that Dr. Steve Bull talks about, which is endurance toughness. This is about performing well when you're fatigued, you're stressed, when you've got lots going on, you're traveling. And what happens is, in busy and stressful times, your cortisol levels are high, and this is okay. But when it's sustained at high levels for a longer period, it impacts your body and your immune system. So what I do with my team, every end of month, every end of quarter, we do what we call a MEX check-in.